Hi there. We're talking this unit about the different steps that we can take to make a good decision. And one of the steps in that process is the step of discernment. And at this step, we consider kind of advice from a variety of sources. So sometimes that advice can come from within our own selves. We can look at our own feelings. Sometimes that advice can come from people we trust. And sometimes that advice can come from other sources. So we'll talk in our next unit a lot more about how we can consider what the law has to say about a particular issue to help us decide what to do. And this video is going to focus on another resource that we can use, and that is, what does the church teach about a particular issue? Now, church teaching has changed over the years in this sense. When the church first began, when it was a bunch of people following Jesus around, they wanted to know what someone taught. They looked to Jesus, and as the church grew bigger and bigger, you can't just call up the Pope and say, "Hey, Pope, I have a question about this particular issue." So, church leaders tend to use the written word now to convey teaching in a lot of different ways. And we're going to talk about 5 different types of writing that church leaders use to try and give guidance to church members about, what to do in particular issues, or kind of offer advice. So here we go. The first type of writing we're going to look at are the documents that were produced from the Second Vatican Council. And this refers to a specific set of meetings that happened starting in 1962 and ending in 1965. And there are a couple of pictures on this particular slide. And having a church council, which is a meeting of all church leaders, was a pretty big deal. There were more than 2,400 bishops that participated at the Second Vatican Council, and it's not like we have these every other year. So, Second Vatican Council started in 1962. The latest church council before that was the First Vatican Council that was in 1870, and the latest church council before that was the Council of Trent, which started in 1545. So, we don't have these, like I said, every other weekend. It's a pretty big deal. Vatican II was significant in that there were really bishops from all over the world that participated. The church was really worldwide at this time. And there were representatives from other denominations and even some women, my goodness, that participated in some of the working sessions. And Pope John XXIII, really, when he called this church council, said that the church needed to pay attention to the signs of the times. And what he meant is, let's take a look at what's going on in our world and respond to that, which is a lot of what morality is trying to do. And so there were a number of sessions and documents produced from this council that address some specific moral issues. And we'll look at those more in class. The next type of church writing is the Catechism of the Catholic Church. And this is a document that contains official Catholic teaching. So you can get that in book form. So the picture on the slide on the left is a picture of the cover of a version of this catechism. And you can also access this catechism online. So that's the picture on the right-hand side is a little screenshot, and we'll be using the online version in class. This document was not produced at Vatican II. That really wasn't the focus of, defining church teaching wasn't the focus of Vatican II. But reorganizing the catechism and kind of compiling, what is it that Catholics believe about different things, developed in the years following the Second Vatican Council. And this particular catechism was not published in English until 1994. So it was first published in Latin, which is the official language of the church, and then got translated into all the other languages that Catholics use. So the version that we used was published in English in 1994. And the Catechism, I will be honest, is not the most exciting thing to read in the world, but it is an awesome, tremendous, tremendous resource because it really lists what does the church teach about almost any issue under the sun. And so if I want to figure out what the church teaches about love, or what the church teaches about magic, or what the church teaches about animals, or what the church teaches about the sacraments, I look in the Catechism and it directs me, with an index to the statements on that particular issue. So it's an incredibly helpful resource. The third type of writing is statements from different Vatican commissions. And so the Roman Curia is kind of like the bureaucratic department of the church. And there are many, many people who work in the Vatican, who work for the church in different departments on a variety of issues. So this can be called pontifical academies, pontifical committees, pontifical councils, congregations, tribunals. All of those are organized under the Roman Curia. And this is a screenshot of the Vatican's website, the web page that introduces all of those different departments. And so sometimes these different congregations or commissions will study specific moral issues and then release statements that kind of provide people guidance because, for example, the Bible doesn't talk about scientific developments that weren't around. So for instance, if I want to know what the church teaches about cloning, well, the Bible isn't going to give me a direct quote where Jesus says cloning is wrong. The Catechism might be of some help, but especially with technology issues or scientific things, technology and science are changing so quickly that, you can't revise the Catechism each time that a new scientific achievement is made. And so, kind of in the meantime, these commissions help to give people some guidance. And when these commissions offer, their statements, they will often include scripture, include statements from the Catechism, to show this is where our reasoning is coming from. But they can be a helpful resource on a variety of specific moral issues. The fourth type of writing is a type of writing known as a papal encyclical. Now, encyclical is a fancy schmancy word that means letter, and a papal encyclical is a letter from the Pope. Now, papal encyclicals are usually addressed to all church members, so not every letter that the Pope writes is considered an encyclical. So if the Pope, for example, was writing to one of his college classmates to wish him a happy birthday or a Merry Christmas, that would not be a papal encyclical. Papal encyclicals, again, are letters that are written from the Pope to the whole church. So it's the Pope exercising his capacity as teacher. Now, papal encyclicals can be about a variety of topics. So you can see Rerum Novarum pictured here is an encyclical letter from Pope Leo XIII. And that was about labor conditions and is part of the basis for Catholic social teaching. And then you can also see the cover of God is Love, which is one of the encyclical letters from the last Pope, Pope Benedict. And then you can also see the cover of The Light of Faith, which is the first encyclical letter from Pope Francis. And finally, the last type of church writing is another type of letter, but these are called pastoral letters. And these letters come from bishops. Another word for bishop is pastor. And bishops, one of their main responsibilities is to be the teacher for their diocese. So that responsibility goes all the way back to the apostles who, were charged with teaching after Jesus was not on earth anymore. So the teaching became the apostles' responsibility, and the bishops are the descendants of the apostles. So a letter from a bishop to his community is a pastoral letter. And again, not every single letter that a bishop writes is going to be a pastoral letter. So if a bishop writes to, writes to his best friend from college to wish him a Merry Christmas, that's not a pastoral letter. But a pastoral letter can be from an individual bishop. So you see on this slide, it's a heading from Archbishop Vigneron, who's the Archbishop of the Archdiocese of Detroit. A pastoral letter can be from a regional group of bishops. So, for instance, if all the bishops in Detroit write a letter to all the people in the Archdiocese, or all the bishops in Michigan write a letter to all the Catholics in Michigan. And a pastoral letter can also be from a national group. So, for instance, the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops is the group of all the bishops in the United States. So, the picture in the top right corner is a pastoral letter that the bishops of the United States wrote for all Catholic people in the United States. So a pastoral letter can come from a variety of different groups of bishops, and just like papal encyclicals, pastoral letters can be about a variety of different topics. So in class, we're going to take a look at examples of each of these types of writing, and you'll see as we go through the course how we can look to church teaching by looking through some of these different types of documents, and that can be one important resource that we use in our moral decision making.